So I remember the first time that somebody said the word Google to me. I was in my office, first job, first career, and I thought, what is a Google? Like, what does that even mean? And he's like, no, come over, you've got to see this. Like, you can put anything in here and it gives you like everything back. And he's like, it's gonna change your life. And you know what, he's right. It didn't just change my life, it kind of changed everything in life in a way. And throughout my career, all kinds of little life-changing things have happened. They introduce these magical little things that you hold in your hand, and you can search the internet on them. They call them smartphones. They're amazing, right? My husband actually waited in line for one once. They also created these websites where you could network with your friends and with your colleagues, or where you can share pictures of your cat or upload videos. Like, who knew that was gonna be so amazing, right? Heck, they're even making cars that drive themselves now. Everything's changing, it's all changing. But what was really weird for me in my job was that it didn't seem to change that much. So I'd show up every day to work in corporate learning and development, and managers and stakeholders would come and they would say like, hi, here's my new person. Tell them everything they need to know about their job. Be like, great. I'd build PowerPoints, and I'd build all these big binders, and we'd have these big workshops. At the end, we'd be like, oh, high fives, and let's take a picture, and you're certified, let's go out. And then like 3 or 4 months later, those same managers would come back and they would say, yeah, this one's broken. Do you think I could, you could fix it? Be like, sure, bring them on back. I'm gonna have another class. We take them right back in. I teach them exactly the same things, send them right back out. And eventually I was like, wait a minute, my whole life is a gigantic insanity, right? I am literally doing the same thing over and over and over again, and I am expecting different results. This is not gonna work. So I decided to leave the comfort of my wonderful little classroom that I was in, and I went out and I followed salespeople on the job, and I sat with customer service reps and I listened to what they were doing. I got out into the production facilities and saw what was happening there, and I realized like, oh my gosh, nobody wants my binder. I mean, I think it's pretty amazing. They don't want it. They want little tiny things, and they want us to use these magical little phones, and they want to do all these things, and that's pretty different. What we realized was that it wasn't about what I wanted people to learn or even what my boss wanted people to learn. It was really about what they wanted to learn. They wanted a lot of control over their career. They wanted to have more destiny, right? And the way that we teach people and how you grow outside of after you leave these wonderful halls of the university is really changing in a lot of ways, in a lot of great ways, in my opinion. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. What is innovative learning and how are things changing? And I see really 2 awesome, cool trends that I think are fun, right? First and foremost, businesses are starting to walk away from structured learning. This idea that you're going to go and have death by PowerPoint, that's all in the past. And the second trend, which I really, really love, is this idea that you create networks and you meet people and that you get coaching and feedback real time. So let's kind of dive in and see where we think we're going to go as we grow in our jobs. So how many of you guys have ever wanted to learn something new? Okay, great. Maybe you wanted to learn to ski, learn to golf, maybe learn to play the piano. Now I myself like to consider myself like a huge adrenaline junkie. So about 10 years ago, I really wanted to learn how to knit, okay? So I took a class, and there was this great lady, and showed me all the stitches, and I was a wizard. I mean, I produced this amazing scarf. Again, it was the high fives, the photo moment. I felt great. Got home, made my first blanket, and it was my friend's hashtag Pinterest nailed it failure, okay? It was so epically bad. It was huge at the top, it was small at the bottom, it was all wonky, and I was like, what's going on? I clearly need to go back to my knitting class, and I need to learn more. So go back, and the lady gives me some advice, and she says, you should really go look at these videos. You'll think these are helpful. And so I went home, and I tried again, and I started watching some videos that I found online. I started reading some, articles and blog posts. This was the beginning of blogging, right? I started reading all of that stuff, and slowly I got better. I tried different needles, tried different yarns. Slowly, I got better. Right? I even joined a little knitting club at the library, which was really fun. And slowly but surely I got better. I'm not going to win any prizes with my knitting, but if need came to it, I could whip you out a scarf. So it all worked. But what I realized from that experience, and for all of you it is the same thing in anything you want to learn, is that about 10% of the learning that you get comes from formal things that you do, right? You go to a class and you learn something. About 20% of your learning comes from getting feedback, getting coaching, working with mentors, things like that. Now, if you're doing your math, that means I've just left a huge chunk of that, 70% of it, that belongs to someone else. And that someone else is you. So 70% of your learning, and that goes for your job too, my friends, all falls on you. There's not a magical button that I push when you come into my office that teaches you everything you need to know, right? Instead, I have this look on my face as you go out, and I'm like, good luck, my friend, okay? Come back as you need me, and I'm here to help you. So 70% of that is on you. Now, I can see some sweat rolling down a few faces in the back that are like, wait, Angela, are you saying that I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go into work and you guys are going to give me like one binder and then I'm on my own? I am not saying that at all, right? Businesses have a lot of great resources and tools that we use. But what we're starting to embrace is the idea that those tools are not necessarily me talking to you, but they're about you figuring out what you need to learn and you setting goals for yourself and you finding the information that you need to be better at what you need to do. So some of the cool things that we're starting to see are businesses walking away from these models of these huge, like, come in, I'm gonna give you 8 hours of training. You may or may not need to know any of that ever in your career here, let alone tomorrow, but I've trained you and we've checked the box. And instead, you're starting to see businesses creating these really cool little tiny pieces of content, right? People like me aren't making big PowerPoints anymore. We're interviewing people like you or you who are experts on things. We're getting your ideas and we're putting them in places that people can grab them anytime. Imagine that you're sitting at Starbucks and you're like, wonder, and you start searching. That is what we want you to have in the corporate world as well. We want you to be able to be standing in line getting your coffee. We want you to be on your treadmill, checking out a blog post, wherever it is in your place and at your pace. I want you to be able to find information. We're starting to see lots of cool new technologies coming out that help deliver that. I've seen some really fantastic search tools that allow people just to talk into their phone and it delivers up all sorts of very curated content to them based on their interests and things that they want to learn. But what I'm really super excited about, and part of that is because I work in a very, very technology-driven industry, are how businesses are really starting to look at super cutting-edge technology. Now hold with me here as I talk with this. It's going to sound a little lost in space, but imagine being able to put on a pair of glasses or even use that magic smartphone that you have to look at a piece of equipment, to look at a tool and be able to see inside it. Right now, most businesses struggle with teaching people highly technical things like that because we need to have that piece of equipment here, or we need to have lots of pictures and drawings. Imagine just being able to roll your phone over it and all of a sudden that piece of equipment opens up and you can spin around it and you can pull it apart. Heck, imagine that you can see it working. And you can look at that video and you can look at that piece of equipment and say, oh, that's where it's not working. I'm not teaching you that in a classroom, right? No way possible I could teach you every part, but you can do that, right? We're starting to see really, really, really neat things coming in the virtual reality space as well, right? Things like learning how to operate a crane or operate a forklift. Those are pretty big pieces of equipment. They're kind of dangerous. They cost a lot of money to have. Imagine you just put on those goggles, slip into your gloves, and the next thing you know, you're learning how to operate a crane or to work a forklift. Now, that may sound pretty outlandish to all of you, but between you and I don't think that that's any more unrealistic than a car that drives itself completely in the next 10 years. It's all going to happen, you mark my word on it. Now, thinking about being responsible for yourself, right? You think in each of those scenarios, that's about me, but how do I do this? It feels really alone, and I like people, and I want to be around people. Well, that's sort of my favorite trend that's coming from learning, and that's social learning. Lots of businesses are doing pretty cool stuff, creating forums and things like that that allow people to get to know each other and ask questions. But more than that, this is the place where you can really have an impact. Imagine being able to come into your business, you know something, and you want to share it with other people. How do you do that? Businesses today are like, great, you know something, I want to know it too. Let's create a relationship and let's share. And that social learning and the platforms that are being created to allow that are really what is separating to me what I think are good and great companies going forward. Their meet and greets, their expert talks, all of those things will become the standard in your lives, not me talking at you for 8 hours about the theory of communication. I'm going to ask you to try and put it together and define folks together. Now, people ask me all the time, now, Angela, you work in corporate learning. What is the number one thing I should be looking for at a company when I start there? And you'd think my answer might be like, look for a company that has an XYZ university or that has relationships with all these other vendors and you can get all this great training. No, the number one question to ask when you start your job, hands down, is what is your philosophy of personal learning? Tell me how you develop your employees. And you want to ask that to the person you're going to work with. And that person should tell you things like, I want you to have a personal development plan. I want to sit with you and I want to understand what you want to be better at. And then I want to connect you with people in the business who can help you learn what you want to learn. Run as fast as you can from people who say, oh, I am an expert in this industry and I'm going to teach you everything that I know. Because, spoiler alert, they don't. Right? Because each one of you are different and you each need to learn and know different things. Right? Find a person who has built an amazing team and can tell you exactly where you fit in that team and how you're going to contribute to that team. And that person will be loyal to you, and I'll tell you what, my friends, you're going to be loyal to them. And managers, this all goes for you too. Don't think that you get off just by not being an employee, that you don't need to be as involved into your own personal learning. Right? Just because I have the word manager behind my title doesn't absolve me from the fact that I need to get better at stuff too, and that I need to have a plan and that I need to have development. I do, and I'm very open about it. My team all knows about it, and I encourage them and actually expect from them to tell me when I'm failing in the places that I want to personally develop. You want to join that team. You want to join the team that says, do you have feedback for me? And that wants you to give feedback. And let me tell you guys a secret. If you have feedback to give to somebody and you don't know how to start that conversation, it's really simple. You say, hey, so-and-so, could you ask me for some feedback? And you've just done an amazing thing. You guys are all communication people, right? You've just helped them save face by getting them to ask you for a little bit of criticism, okay? But as you listen to all of this, you are the key piece of all of this. You are integral in all of this. I am not sitting here magically creating the plan that's going to get any of you better at anything. You're the person who's going to do that. And I'm just here to sort of shepherd you in that experience. I tell my team all the time that we create panoramic windshields and little teeny tiny rear view mirrors for a reason. Looking in the rear view mirror for too long, even if your car's an autopilot, is not a good thing. It's dangerous. You look through the windshield because you want to see what's in the horizon. And that's where the future is. And you want to be super deliberate on what are the things I need to know, what are the experiences I need to have today to get me to where I want to go tomorrow. The journey's not about getting from point A to point B. It's not that. It's about the ride there. And you have a choice in your career. You can be the person who sits in the passenger seat and takes a nice little ride, or you can be the driver who sees everything going along. And I will tell you all this. It's not that exciting to sit in the passenger seat, but it is the thrill of the lifetime to hit the accelerator. Thank you so much.